Welcome to today's episode of Mpako. Today we are telling the story of when drums spoke in symbols. The story of EKPE resistance in 19th and 20th centuries. None. Long before colonialism etched its presence in Igbo land, the EKPE society thrived as one of the most powerful traditional institutions in southern Nigeria and western Cameroon, particularly among the Igbo communities of Arochukwu, Ohafia, Abam, and the borderlands with the Efik and Ibibio people, also referred to as Okonkwo or Mbe. I'm not sure if I pronounced this word well. In some areas, which regulated justice, maintained order, and guarded spiritual law. It encoded its knowledge in Nsibidi, an ancient ideographic writing system, leopard iconography, masquerades, and graded members. EKPE began among the Ejagan people of Cross River around 15th century and later was adopted by the Efik and Ibibio, then spread to Igbo border communities like Arochukwu, Ohafia, Ndoki, Afikpo, and some other communities through trade, migration, and political alliances. The society functioned as law enforcement body, spiritual guardian, and merchant regulator, especially during the slave trade era. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, as the British consolidated their control over what became southern Nigeria, they introduced the warrant chief system, officially from 1900s onwards, under Lord Frederick Lugard, which directly threatened the authorities of traditional institutions such as the EKPE. The British administrators found EKPE's secretive and spiritual governance threatening to indirect rule system. The colonial government, unable to decipher the Nsibidi symbols or decode the masquerade messages, perceived the society as subversive and began moves to outlaw and suppress it. However, this marked the beginning of EKPE resistance, a form of anti-colonial defiance not often spoken about in mainstream historical narratives. EKPE's resistance was not organized in conventional military fashion, but in cultural and symbolic warfare. It resisted by refusing to recognize the colonial appointed warrant chiefs, whom they considered illegitimate and spiritually unclean, holding parallel courts where community disputes were settled using traditional law instead of British jurisprudence, sounding ritual drums and sending masquerades to issue edicts and rally communal opposition against colonial orders such as taxation, land alienations, and conscriptions of forced labor. Then using Nsibidi to communicate across towns and villages, evading colonial surveillance, as colonial authorities couldn't decipher the messages encoded in Nsibidi. Nsibidi was then understood only by the initiates, rendering the British intelligence ineffective, and that drove them mad. In 1914, for instance, the British amalgamated the northern and southern protectorates. Pressure mounted on local leadership structures to conform to colonial authorities. EKPE lodges, particularly in Cross River and southern border towns, became centers to quiet but powerful resistance. The resistance sometimes took the form of refusing to enforce colonial policies, such as in Arochukwu and Ohafia, where EKPE leaders were instrumental in mobilizing people to boycott unfair taxation. The EKPE society was deeply spiritual. The society believed that its authority was not earthly, but derived from ancestral and cosmic forces. As such, members often resisted colonial rule, not just as political act, but as spiritual obligation. The colonial authorities tried to deface and destroy the society's protected shrines, sacred groves, and ritual processes. Despite the intense effort of colonial suppression, ranging from missionary attacks on pagan practices to colonial proclamation outlawing secret societies, EKPE survived. In fact, by the 1920s and 30s, the British, realizing that total suppression was almost impossible, began co-opting certain EKPE leaders into native authority structures, though were not always successful. The legacy of EKPE's resistance lies in its subtlety and endurance. It demonstrated how cultures can serve as resistance, how language, art, symbolism, and spirituality can stand up to guns, papers, and policies. Just like the Mpako strategy, it is another clear example in West Africa of what we might call invisible warfare, a rebellion in spirit and not just in swords. Today, the EKPE society still exists in southern Nigeria and some parts of Cameroon. Their masquerades still dance, their drums still speak, and their CBD symbols, now studied around the world, remain among the oldest known indigenous scripts in Africa. Institutions like the EKPE Lodge in Arochukwu and Obun CBD continues to teach and preserve the ancestral codes. While not as widely known as other armed resistance, the EKPE resistance holds a very unique and vital place in history. It reminds us that resistance is not always loud. Sometimes it comes wearing a mask, speaking in symbols, and marching to the rhythms of ancestral drums. And this is where we bring it to an end on the story of the EKPE resistance of 1920s centuries. My name is Amarachi Atama Ogu, and I am your host on this program, Mpako, celebrating our ingenuities. Next episode, we will come again with another story. Ndewono.